Welcome back to another episode of the Hawke's Nest. Thank you guys for tuning in. Before we get started, as always, if you could hit like on this video and smash that subscribe button, all the love and support would be greatly appreciated. We have Miko here with me today. He's getting a little depressed. It's getting a little colder here in Wisconsin. We're in the 20s now, so he's not going outside as much, trying to get some exercise, but a little tired. Marketing manager isn't exactly doing his job, so I got to do it for him, right? What I'm thinking today, since it's a little cooler out, what I want to do is talk about the buyer consultation. So I want to go over some of the things that I usually go over with buyers when I just start to meet them. Talk about earnest money, the home inspection process, appraisals, things like that. So I'm going to get set up right now on my computer here. And then we're going to dive right into it. I'm going to show you guys some paperwork as well in this video, just to familiarize with it. So give me 1 second to get set up, then we'll get going. First thing I like to talk about when I'm having a buyer consultation with someone is financing. What does financing entail? Financing essentially is getting a pre-approval from a lender, a trusted lender. I always encourage you to work with a lender who it's someone that you know, or you get a recommendation, someone local. I've had nothing but problems personally with online lenders. It's always hard to get a hold of the person that you want to talk to. You got to jump through 5 different hoops. So instead, I'm someone who likes to, when it comes to business, I like to be able to drive to the location if I have a problem, and I can speak directly with the person that I need to in order to get things done. So highly encourage a local lender and a trusted lender, someone that you maybe get a referral from someone. But so getting that set up is going to be the first step. That's the most important thing. What the whole purpose of that pre-approval is, a lender's going to take a look at your debts, car payments, things like that you owe, school loans. If you have a current mortgage, there's all sorts of different things that they're going to just take a look at all of your debts. They're going to look at any credit cards you have, things like that. Then they're going to take a look at your income. There's something called a debt to income ratio, and the debt to income ratio needs to be within a certain threshold for you to be able to get a loan. That's the whole purpose of the pre-approval, and then from there they can kind of budget, okay, you can afford X amount with a house. So that's the lender's job. That's not exactly my job. I can definitely get a lender on here later on to talk more about that another time. Another thing I don't really get too into when it comes to the buyer consultation, because it deals more directly with the lenders, is closing costs. Buyers need to be aware, obviously there's costs when it comes to obtaining a loan. So there's going to be fees for servicing the loan from the lender. There could be discount points for the interest rate, things like that. The one other one is real estate commission, but you can get paid through seller concessions with that, or getting closing costs covered by sellers. Biggest thing with that is you need to know what loan type you have, because there is certain percentages. Conventional is 3%, FHA 6%. There's certain percentages that you can only ask up to a certain percentage of the purchase price for closing costs to be covered. Closing costs in lender, the financing, that's more involved with the lender, and I let them take it from there. That's not really my job. But one thing that I do is check in weekly with your lender whenever you have an accepted offer, just to make sure things are moving smoothly, everything is getting done in a timely manner, we're meeting our contingency deadlines in the financing section of your offer, things like that. Long story short, with closing costs, talk to your lender as far as if you want to come up with an estimate on how much it's going to cost cash to close. If you use cash to close, that term, they will be able to give you a rough ballpark on how much it will cost to close on that house, including down payment and those associated fees. So those are fees that are going to be charged at closing, right? You also have upfront fees when it comes to purchasing a house, and that's what I deal with. That's where I kind of come into play. So these upfront costs are costs associated with buying the house when you're going through the home buying process and not the loan process, right? So the first one thing you have is earnest money. The good thing about earnest money is you do see that money back, right? So think of earnest money as you're throwing some skin in the game when you're looking to purchase a seller's property, right? You're saying, I'm willing to give you, seller, X amount of dollars in good faith to purchase your property. The biggest thing, some people, they say like, they risk their earnest money. It can be at risk depending on the situation, but within the offer, you do have protections that you can do to lower the potential loss of funds with your earnest money. So earnest money is tied to your total cash to close amount. So let's say, for example, you are looking to purchase a $200,000 property. There is no set standard again with earnest money. Your agent's going to coach you through it, but let's say you put down 1%, right? So you're putting down $2,000 of earnest money to purchase this property in good faith to that seller, right? At closing, so when you get to the title company and the lender and the title company are balancing figures, you will see a credit of $2,000 going towards your total cash to close amount. So it's not like that money just disappears, which is awesome. One other thing with earnest money is you can have it accompany your offer if you would like. Otherwise, and this I don't want to say norm because there is no norm, every transaction is different, but oftentimes buyers will, within X amount of days, and that's in your contract, I'll show you the section right now of earnest money. It says right here it will be delivered within X amount of days, and then here you specify how much, what amount you're going to be putting, and then where it's going to be delivered to. Sometimes listing brokerages, they hold the earnest money. Other times title company will hold the earnest money as well. If the listing agency doesn't have a trust account, then the buyer's firm does, then the buyer's firm may hold it instead. That might be an option. Biggest thing to remember is your agent should be coaching you through this as long as you sign a buyer agency agreement. So the next thing after earnest money is delivered, right? After earnest money is usually the home inspection process, or if you have a rural property, the well and septic inspection process as well. The home inspection process, it really is going to vary between cost. I've seen anywhere between $300 to $400. It really depends on your area, and every inspector, it's their business. They can charge whatever they like, right? So the home inspection process, though, regardless of the cost, let's say it's $300-$400, well and septic here in Wisconsin, you're right around $375 to $400 for well inspection, a septic inspection, and then a well water test as well. The whole point of those inspections is to look for anything that is considered a defect. A defect is anything that significantly affects the value of the property, the structural integrity of the property, or poses a safety and health risk to its occupants. Those are things that are going to get red flagged on an inspection report, or they should be, right? Once those are flagged, or let's say the inspector completes the inspection process, they're going to send us the report. Once they send us the report, you and I are going to get together and we're going to talk about what defects came up, or what items that maybe need further evaluation, what comes up on that inspection. From there, we're going to determine what you can live with and what you can't live without. What I always tell people when it comes to the inspection process is we want to look at the things that are going to affect you from wanting to buy the property. So if there's loose doorknobs, if there's maybe a simple outlet that needs to be fixed, right? Those are things that maybe you could push off. If it's a major foundation issue, let's say, or a roof needs replacing, that's kind of a make or break a deal, right? So those are things that you're going to want to negotiate, and there's a few options that we can do. You can always just have the seller repair it, but let's say they don't have funds, right? You could always find a company that maybe will do the work and get paid at closing. That's obviously a risk on their part, but it has happened in the past. Another thing you could do is maybe instead of these repairs, let's say they're minor repairs, you get $1,000 or $2,000 towards your closing costs. So if you didn't get any closing costs covered within your offer, instead you're getting it covered now. You're getting, let's say, $2,000 in lieu of the repairs that are needed to be completed. That could be an option. You could always just lower the price if you wanted to. I always say I would rather have the closing costs. I'd take the money now because then that's money that I get to keep in my pocket. and a $2,000 price reduction isn't going to change my monthly payment enough. You see more value in getting closing costs covered over that. But it really depends on the situation. If you're talking a 20 grand difference in price, that's a significant difference and can change your monthly payment a really good amount too. In conclusion, the inspection process, you're going to have the inspections, and you have the right to be there if you want to as well. So you could go to the inspections if you wanted. Those get completed. They send a report over to the agent and the buyer. Usually it's the buyer, then the buyer has to forward it on. But if you get permission, the inspectors will send it directly to us. And then from there, you and I are meeting up, and we are going to go over the report in its entirety and draft an amendment if they do have the right to cure. So what's the right to cure then, right? Right to cure is essentially giving the seller the option to fix a defect that comes up, or saying, hey seller, I'm willing to negotiate. So I'm going to plug the home inspection contingency page and the right to cure section right now. So you should see that here. In this example on 206, you can see here, this contingency shall be deemed satisfied unless buyer within 14 days after acceptance delivers the seller a copy of written inspection reports and buyer objects to the defects. So you're saying 14 days, I'm going to have a home inspection completed and anything will be negotiated within that time frame. If we're getting towards the end of that 14-day deadline, right, and we haven't come to negotiations, or let's just say seller isn't responding for some reason, right, then you're going to serve what's called a notice of defects. So now you're saying, okay seller, I tried to negotiate with an amendment. Now I'm doing a notice of defects. So now I'm telling you this is what I want fixed. Otherwise, we're going to walk away. So if you go back to that page here, you can see on 218, in this case, you can see, actually, let's back up 1 second, 216, it says seller shall have the right to cure defects. So we gave the seller the option to. 218 says that then the seller would have to deliver a notice back to the buyer, in this example within 3 days, saying that they agree to cure the defects. The one thing I hate about this, if you go to 220, it says cure the defects in a good and workmanlike manner. I hate that language, and we need to fix that language. That is very gray, because everyone's good and workmanlike manner is different. So I always, whenever I try to do something when it comes to a repair, have a contractor do it. That way, if something is done incorrectly, there's usually a warranty, or we can get the contractor back out there to fix it. Now let's say for some reason on 216, we did seller shall not have the right to cure. So that red line is striking out shall. Then that is saying that, okay seller, I am not giving you the option to fix a defect. And that's gonna give you, if you jump down here to 222, it says this offer shall be null and void if buyers make a delivery of the notice of defects and the written inspection report accompanies it, and the seller does not have the right to cure on 223 right there. So your offer would become null and void. You'd have a way out. You could get your earnest money back. Just because it becomes null and void or there is a defect doesn't mean that you still can't negotiate. So always remember that. You can still negotiate if you even do seller shall not have the right to cure defects. Now let's say everything went fine and dandy with the home inspection or the well and septic inspections, or things were negotiated, fixed, whatever may be, right? So we're past that now. Now we're on to the next section of your offer, and that's going to be the appraisal section. So what is an appraisal? An appraisal is an independent third party that's hired by the lender to go out and evaluate the property. There are three values when it comes to a property. There's assessed value, market value, and appraised value. Assessed value you want low. That's going to be what determines your taxes. The market value is what us as realtors look at when we're running our comps, things like that. So that is market value. And then the appraised value is essentially this third party going out and being a realtor's fact checker, verifying that the price that we list the property at, that it is actually at least worth that, or whatever the purchase price is if the offer price was over that. So you have the appraiser go out there and evaluate the property. They have a little more restrictions, and they have formulas and things that they have to follow to determine their value. I'm gonna jump to the appraisal page here. You should see that now. On 308 here, that's your appraisal contingency. So if you're getting a loan, 9 times out of 10, you're probably gonna need an appraisal. There are certain times where you don't though. We'll get into that another time. But 312, you can see right here, the contingency, again, shall be deemed satisfied. So you're putting a timeline on how long the appraisal, or how long we have for that appraisal contingency. So you can see here in this example, we put 35 days after acceptance. And again, you can see on line 315, we have a right to cure section. Right to cure section is a little different on this one though. So it's not about repairs or anything like that. It's more about the value. So you can see here in this example, 315, seller shall have the right to cure. What that is saying, that whole right to cure section, is if the appraisal were to come in low. So let's say, for example, we wrote an offer on a $250,000 property. We had to write $25,000 over. It was a crazy market, multiple offers, right? So 25 grand over, our accepted offer price is $275. Let's say that the appraisal came in, realtor hit the nail on the head and said, no, it's worth it's at $250. That was the list price. Appraiser confirms it's worth $250 and not a penny more. Well, now we have a $25,000 gap between $250 to $275. So what do? This section right here, you can see seller shall have the right to cure. We're gonna give the seller the option to come down to the appraised value. So we're gonna say, okay, seller, here's the appraisal report. As you can see, it came in at $250, not $275. We're gonna request that the purchase price comes down from $275 to $250,000. Seller could just agree to that. Everything's fine and dandy. That'd be great. But if there's multiple offers, let's say there was 10 offers, yours was accepted because it was at $275. Seller could say, no, I'm not gonna come down, but you can make up the difference. So then in that case, you'd have to have a smacking 25 grand to throw on top of all your other closing costs that you have. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of people don't have that money. So it doesn't usually happen. You could always find a happy medium. Let's say seller agrees to go up to or come down to $260 and you have to pay 10 grand out of pocket or something. There's all sorts of negotiations that can be done. But let's say we can't agree to that, or you don't have any additional funds to pay up a difference or anything like that, and the seller won't come down to $250. Well, in that case, deal's gonna fall apart more than likely unless you come up with another creative solution. With the seller having the right to cure, the seller has that option, but they are not required to come down if they don't want to. However, in my opinion and what I've seen in the past, if the seller isn't willing to come down and the deal's going to fall apart, one can make an argument that maybe the buyer should get their earnest money back, but it depends. It really depends on the seller, and if we're having an earnest money dispute or we can't get the seller or the buyer to agree who should get it, depending on the certain situation, that's when we have to step out as realtors because we can't act as lawyers, and then attorneys have to get involved. Shall not, you're going to have the best protection when it comes to if you want to weigh out of your offer and you want to get your earnest money back for sure. Shall not's going to be the way to go. Shall, however, saying, hey, I'm willing to play ball, willing to negotiate a little bit more, might be more appealing to the seller. So it's really all about you and what you want and what you're most comfortable with. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you guys gained a ton of knowledge. There is still a lot about a buy-side transaction that I did not even touch on or cover at all, just because there is so much when it comes to it, and it would be an hour-long video if I kept going. So thank you guys for watching that video. It really means a lot to me that you took time out of your day to watch it. If you like this sort of content, make sure you like the video below and subscribe to the channel so you receive notifications when a new video is posted. I really appreciate you coming by, stopping at the Hawke's Nest, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care.